Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to R.A. Faginal Hall on the campus of Elmhurst College. I'm Tim Calderwood with you alongside Gina Vernier. Last night, we opened with the Elmhurst College women's basketball team, an overtime loss to Franklin. Tonight, it is the men's turn to open at home. The Blue Jays lost in overtime, 75-70 in their season opener on Tuesday at Cornell. And tonight, they face a team that they have beaten twice previously, the Pipers from Hamline University out of the Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. Hamline is a team that qualified for the Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference tournament last season. They are going to present a real size challenge for the Blue Jays in the post, and one of the more dominant post players in the nation, in Carl Hipp. One of the areas that Mark Scheer tried to improve on this Elmhurst squad was in the post. And we will have an opportunity to see perhaps some of that depth here tonight for this Elmhurst squad. Gina, last season was extremely disappointing for the Blue Jays, winning only one CCIW game and just 6 games overall. It's got to be nice for them to get on the floor and have a chance to put those memories of a year ago behind them.
You bet, Tim. Coach Schreer's done a great job recruiting in the offseason. He's found some height and depth, as you mentioned, in his lineup. We may see a lot of that tonight. I'm excited to see what they're going to bring to the floor and really what kind of competition we're going to have in front of us here against Hamline tonight.
And one of the interesting things about the approach that Mark Scheer took in his recruiting situation, he brought in a few junior college players, something that he hasn't done previously in his tenure with the Blue Jays, to try to get some post players who were ready to take the floor at the college level immediately upon arriving on campus.
You know what, and I think that's huge. Something like that is you're going to get a player who's not just out of high school, but you're getting a player who actually has some college basketball experience. Now, the level may not be even at Division III, but when you're taking a kid from a JUCO or a community college, they've already been in the realm of what it's like to play in college atmosphere, for that matter, in basketball, and that can be a huge benefit to a basketball team at the Division III level.
Hamline finished 15-11 a season ago, losing the last 4 games of the year, or else they may have had an opportunity for a late season run out of the Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. They opened on Tuesday as well, losing on the road to Northwestern of Minnesota, 62-61, going on a 7-0 run in the final moments, but missed their final 4 shots to fall by the 1-point deficit. As they head to the road, a place they'll be familiar with this season, 15 road games on the 25-game schedule for Hamline. Let's meet the starting lineups for the contest. Jordan Schmidt, 6'1" sophomore guard out of Northbrook, Illinois, for Hamline, along with Mike Campbell, a 6'3" junior guard out of Burnsville, Minnesota. He's also joined by Levi Weinrich, a 5'10" junior guard out of California. Noah Aguirre, sophomore forward out of California, and Carl Hipp, who we talked about in the open, one of the top post players in all of Division III. Elmhurst opening with the basketball. The Blue Jays a familiar look as well, as Deontay Foster tries to lob into the post, and the Blue Jays turn it over on their first possession of the ball game. Deontay Foster, Mike McCurdy, Zach Boyd, Aaron Schroeder for the Blue Jays, along with Eric Ellingson. So still a smaller look for Elmhurst, at least to open up. And again, that's going to be an interesting advantage right away. Foster, free throw line extended, in and out. There for the rebound is Carl Hipp, who last season reeled in 20 rebounds in addition to scoring 24 points in Elmhurst's 79-70 victory. Hipp right away in the lane with the right-handed drop.
Well, Tim, you mentioned the lineup that Coach Scheer has out on the floor right now for the Blue Jays to start things off, and what you're going to see is indeed a smaller lineup here, but you don't have any inexperience. All of these guys have actually played at least a year. Deontay being the only sophomore on the floor right now, but you've got guys that have done this before for the Blue Jays.
Ellingson trapped in front of the Hamline bench. Bouncing baseline right for Schroeder. His back is to the bucket with the shot clock at 10. Here is Foster, flanked by Schmidt. To his right, out comes Boyd. Schmidt is all over Foster. Entry pass towards the post is knocked away. Ellingson has to hurry. Didn't get off the left-handed shot at the elbow. Great defense from Hamline.
They did put a lot of good pressure on the point guard Foster there on that run, and unfortunately could not get the shot off in time.
Blue Jay TV coverage of men's basketball. Elmhurst will be at home again on December 9th. They have 3 consecutive road dates upcoming. At St. Norbert, a nationally ranked program. At Olivet and at Westminster, beat the Blue Jays a year ago out of the St. Louis Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. Jumper is left short by Weinrich, and away comes Foster. Hamline with a 2-0 lead by virtue of Carl Hipp's basket. 2 minutes into the first half, Boyd cuts to the hole, and he is fouled on the way up.
Nice sharp pass there by Ellingson to find Boyd, and that's going to put him at the line, hopefully to put these 2 in for the Blue Jays.
One of the things that stands out looking at the numbers from the Elmhurst-Cornell contest is some of the minutes that the players saw for the Blue Jays. Zach Boyd heading to the line. Keep in mind it was a 45-minute game because it went to overtime. Zach Boyd played 42 of the 45 minutes. Boyd had a very good day at Cornell. 20 points and 14 rebounds. A double-double as he converts on his first free throw.
Well, in his career here, Boyd has really shown Coach that he's a type of guy that you want in your roster. You want on the floor. He's a workhorse. He's always going after everything on the floor. And he got a lot of playing time, even as a freshman. And now he's paid his dues, and as a junior, he's finding himself a lot of playing time.
Out of Warrensburg, Illinois, played at Warrensburg-Latham. 6'3" junior guard, evens the score at 2 aside. Just talking about some of the minutes that the Blue Jays put together in that opener. Deontay Foster was on the floor for 39 minutes. Eric Ellingson, 35. Aaron Schroeder, 32. So Mark Scheer was relying on his starters Tuesday. Jordan Schmidt, shy of the left elbow, converts. And it's Hamline in front once again at 4-2. The Pipers are a very experienced team. Though they return only a couple of starters from their program last year, they are looking for consecutive trips to the Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Tournament. McCurdy chasing it down at the center line. Left-hand dribble with 15 to shoot. Hamline out on the man defense. Schroeder passing on a three-pointer. Rotating out, gunning for the steal is Campbell. Boyd dribbles in, he leans in and hits the 13-footer.
Great arch on that shot for Boyd to get it over the hand of the defender. Excellent job by Boyd.
One thing to immediately notice is the turnout here tonight. A great showing for the home opener. Student section is out in full force. In fact, there is one fan who you cannot see at home because he's on our side, but he is shirtless with the chest painted blue and the face to go with it.
Well, he calls himself the 6th man, Tim, and somebody that's just a fanatic. He's always at all the Blue Jay events, whether it be football, volleyball. Here tonight at the basketball game, it's good to see some good fan support out there.
Campbell open look at a three-pointer in the left corner. No. Apparently people missing our memo of the caution tape.
Hey, you know, they're trying to get some TV time. They're 5 seconds of fame in that case, I guess, but just watch the game. Be entertained by that.
Head coach of the Blue Jays, Mark Scheer, in his 15th season here at Elmhurst. 219 victories and 141 defeats. One thing that is different about Elmhurst this year, his coaching staff. 2 brand new coaches. Ellingson, left turn, three-pointer, in and out. Rebound is loose, and a foul going against the Blue Jays. Dan Doyle had been with Elmhurst for a couple of seasons. He took a full-time coaching job at Cornell, who the Blue Jays faced on Tuesday. And the other head coach, or the other assistant coach, John Baines, is now a head coach at St. Francis. So the new assistants, Jason Hawkins and Rick Harrigan. Some new faces on the Blue Jay bench. Here is Hipp. Nice feed from Schmidt. So easy in the post.
I think it's important to note, Tim, for me, the importance of having a good coaching staff, and especially assistant coaches, because these are the guys that work with them in the off season and get them extra time. The assistant coaches are always in the weight room helping these guys out get on the right plan and preparing for the season.
16:01 first half, 6-4 Hamline with the lead. A foul against Mike Campbell, his first, the third against the Pipers, and for the first time Mark Scheer heads to his bench. Sean Fenley entering. Fenley is an interesting story. Transferring into Elmhurst this year. He's an Elmhurst product. Played at York High School here in town. But that's not what's interesting about him. Fenley spent 3 seasons at Carthage College. did not play at all a year ago. Was a third-team All-CCIW choice as a junior in the 2008-2009 season and widely thought of as one of the top shooters in the CCIW. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do donning the blue and white this year. Also in for Elmhurst in the post is Steve Crane, who's one of those transfers we were talking about. He also is a York High School product. Here is Fenley. Open three-pointer. It's off to the left. Rebound is knocked around by Aguirre and secured by Weinrich. Schmidt to the left elbow. Campbell knifing along the baseline over the top of Crane and in. Hamline looking very smooth on the offensive side of things so far, while their defense is tightening up and forcing the Blue Jays to use every bit of the shot clock. Foster backing up against Schmidt. Bouncing for Boyd. Mark Shear screaming for a timeout. And a 30-second timeout will be spent by the Blue Jays. We told you about Mark Shear in his 15th season. Well, Nelson Whitmore just starting to build a program at Hamline University. He's in his 4th season, as we mentioned, coming off of a postseason appearance a year ago. Hamline qualifying for the conference tournament. 32-45 in his first 3 seasons at the helm. Elmhurst has played Hamline in each of the last 2 seasons and holds the lead in the season series 2-0. They have never lost to Hamline. But it is the Pipers leading by 4 with 15:05 in the first. Glad you are with us on Blue Jay TV. We won't talk to you again until December, but I hope that you have a lovely Thanksgiving. My mouth is already watering at the thought of gravy and turkey, stuffing.
Got big plans, Tim?
I always have big plans for my stomach to eat as much as humanly possible.
That's a good tradition to hold there.
Thanksgiving's about the only day where you can get away with it. And then immediately on Friday, head to the gym and work it all off.
There you go.
Nice long 2-hour workout.
The guilt sets in.
Zach Boyd outside the lane on the left edge. Fouled on the way up. Well, one of the reasons I do that is because I actually run a 5K in the morning of Thanksgiving. So I work it all off and then put it on and then work it off again. So.
Yeah, you're burning the calories that you're going to get on Thanksgiving dinner. And then the guilt sets in on Friday. But hey, so is it like a turkey trot?
Yes.
Cool.
Zach Boyd with all 4 points for Elmhurst thus far. Make it 5. Led the Blue Jays in scoring and rebounding as a sophomore. And that's one of the things we were talking about with Elmhurst trying to improve their size. Boyd is 6'3", and he averaged 5.4 rebounds per game, which was the tops on the Elmhurst squad a season ago. They really need to find a way to be more physical, especially in the CCIW, and what's shaping up to be perhaps one of the top seasons in recent memory in conference as far as depth goes. 3 nationally ranked teams already. Another receiving votes. Schmidt towards the basket, swatted from behind by McCurdy. And those teams that I speak of, FYI, Illinois Wesleyan number 4, Carthage number 5, Augustana number 24, and Wheaton receiving votes. Schmidt, low left, off the mark, Fenley underneath. Fenley controlled 5 rebounds in his Elmhurst debut. McCurdy towards the basket, floating 6-footer, long, and Aguirre brings it in.
Tim, you couldn't be more right about the CCIW and the competition that it brings, and by a team being in the CCIW, it's a tough conference, and being physical is absolutely a necessity and something that the Elmhurst Blue Jays really need to try to really focus on for this season, bumping up their physical game and all the physical challenges that come from it.
McCurdy to the hole. No with the left-handed layup. Weak side rebound for Schmidt. To the basket, it's Andy Voigt. Oh, with authority. Andy Voigt scored just 2 points in the season opener on Tuesday for Hamline. He matches that total here with 13:39 to play in the first half. The Pipers by 4 at 10-6. Fenley pops out high right. Steve Crane stepping out as well, setting a screen. Shot clock is down to 10. Here's Boyd spinning along the baseline, out to Crane. 15-footer drops in.
couldn't be more pleased by the efforts there on offense by the Blue Jays. And having a guy that's 6'7" like Steve Crane in your lineup on offense can only be a plus.
Crane showcasing his range and the shooting touch with the 15-footer, and now he's in on the act defensively with a rebound.
Hey, he covers a lot of real estate, Tim, and he's just like I said, a guy you want to have on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively.
Elmhurst within 2. Foster, corner right. Out high towards Fenley. Elmhurst continuing to work it around the arc. That's pretty much the style of offense as Crane spins. Finds McCurdy, open left corner, three-pointer well off, but Zach Boyd with an offensive rebound. And a timeout for Elmhurst, a 30-second timeout. Mark Scheer was obviously not happy with the offensive set there. Blue Jays have already spent 2 timeouts here in the first half, trailing 10-8 with 12:28 remaining. Early look at the numbers. The Blue Jays are just 2 of 8 from the floor, 25%, while Hamline is 5 of 10, 50%. 4 of the 8 points on the board for Elmhurst have come at the stripe. They are 0 of 3 from three-point land. In the loss to Cornell on Tuesday night, Elmhurst was 5 of 14 from bonus distance. That's one of the things having that interior presence will do, is kind of take away the reliance on the outside shot. Bailey Barnett, sophomore out of Gary, Indiana. He's the inbounder. Barnett appearing in 8 minutes Tuesday, scoring 3 points. Here is Boyd. And the basket has a lid on it for Elmhurst. Brandon Rigg entering for Hamline. Along the left baseline and reaching out is Foster. Talking about the CCIW this season. 2 other games this evening. Ripon is at Illinois Wesleyan. Wisconsin Whitewater is at Wheaton. The College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin had its first test today against a ranked foe. And Carthage at home lost to John Carroll 70-69. John Carroll 18th in the nation, Carthage 5th. The Redmen chosen as the CCIW's preseason favorites. Trigger a three-pointer in the left corner for Tabor. Christian Tabor, sophomore out of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, with a triple. 13-8, first three-pointer from either side. And a travel for Bailey Bennett. Bothered a bit defensively. Well, Hamline has just been tenacious on defense. They are in your face all the time, contesting every pass, contesting every dribble even to this point. Here's another three-pointer. Short off the front iron from Tabor. And on the rebound, we're headed the other way on a foul.
Well, what we saw last night, Tim, was struggles between both teams in the women's competition, and both teams were ending up in double bonus first and second half, and it ended up being, what did you mention, like 40-plus times at the free throw line?
For each team. There was over 80 free throws last night.
And that is a lot of stopped clock, a lot of time at the free throw lines, and that's something that neither team for Elmhurst wants to make a habit of, is those late fouls and the ones that are very far away from the basket.
Crowd chanting, "Let's go Blue Jays," as Bennett throws it away. Behind the back pass, pretty. Aguirre, however, was unable to finish the beautiful feed from Rigg. Noah Aguirre headed to the free throw line, reached double digits with 11 points and 5 rebounds in his season opening appearance. 26 minutes against Northwestern. Aguirre added 11 last season against Elmhurst. And with the second free throw, the Pipers hold a 6-point edge at 14-8.
I think really what the Blue Jays need to do here on offense is just find a sense of a flow, something that they can get involved in. Set up a play, slow things down, and let's make something happen here on this end of the court.
A little bit out of the reach of Miles Burton. All the way back towards the half-court stripe. Finley with a left-hand dribble. High for Boyd. Wing left. Burton throws it away, but Ellingson in the right spot to chase it down. Here's Finley off a screen. Open in the right corner. Three-pointer off the back iron. Burton tries to keep the rebound alive, but he climbs over the back of the much smaller Brandon Rigg in the process.
I think it was a good shot effort there, and he had a good look at it. He was deep, too. Definitely a couple steps behind the three-point line. But I think it was a good shot.
Miles Burton at 6'7" with his first foul on the 5th against Elmhurst. He was climbing over the top of the 5'8" Brandon Rigg, and a carry. We'll hand it back to Elmhurst.
Tim, if we talk a little bit about the fact that the first quarter of games is going to be against non-conference teams for the Blue Jays, and most of the teams in the CCIW obviously are going to get a handful of games before they face CCIW competitors. Talk a little bit about how the importance is of getting those games so they can become prepared for the competition that comes in the CCIW.
Offensive foul. Tyler Pinnell stepped in and drew the charge on Boyd, who was whistled for his second foul, and that is not good news for Elmhurst with 10:36 remaining in the half. Zach Boyd with 6 of the 8 points on the board, and he will stay on the floor for now. Well, non-conference schedule, the point of it is to get kind of as many different looks as possible so that you can see and be prepared for anything that will come at you during the conference season. Aguirre off to the left edge, three-pointer for Pinnell, wide right, Finley there. And Elmhurst has certainly done that. Cornell, usually a top half team in the Iowa Conference. They'll have Loris of the Iowa Conference later, who is the preseason favorites in the Iowa Conference. They'll also face Westminster, who advanced to the NCAA tournament last year. How about Finley? Nice touch from 17 on the left baseline. They'll meet Aurora out in Las Vegas, champions of the Northern Athletics Conference. And also have Wisconsin Oshkosh. So a little bit of everything on the schedule for the Blue Jays, which I think is what you want in the non-conference portion. Pinnell, uncontested, triggers the three off to the right. Finley trots ahead. Well, he didn't really handle the point too much at Carthage, but right now he is handling point guard duties for the Blue Jays. Bouncing for Burton, up the right side of the paint. Off to the left with his hook attempt. Weinrich to the basket with a nice finish.
Well, that's just something that just can't continue to happen throughout the course of the game. Defense has got to get back and not let that open lane be wide open for an easy 2 points for Hamline.
Schroeder, left of the paint, pivoting to Ellingson on the move. Look to go back to Schroeder, but Jordan Schmidt read it perfectly. He'll start the break. Aguirre to the bucket. 18-10, largest lead of the game for Hamline, and a timeout for the Blue Jays. With 8:39 remaining in the first half, Hamline 18, Elmhurst 10. We step aside. This is Blue Jay TV. How about CCIW teams in the NCAA Division III football playoffs, which open today. North Central winning 57-7 at home over St. Norbert. The Cardinals are a number 1 seed. They upended Elmhurst this year. The Blue Jays nearly canceled Wheaton's postseason plans with an early season clash where Wheaton had to come from behind in the fourth quarter. The Thunder came from behind late today as well, overcoming a 21-9 deficit to win 31-21 as the number 2 seed in the West region. So both CCIW schools moving onward in the football playoffs. Here in Elmhurst, it is basketball season with the Blue Jays trailing Hamline 18-10. Glad you're with us on Blue Jay TV tonight. Along with Gina Vernier, I am Tim Calderwood. McCurdy bouncing towards Foster, out of the timeout with 15 to shoot, picking up his dribble. Around the arc it goes. Burton is surrounded, and as he dumps off for Schroeder, contacts. That is a bailout foul with 9 on the shot clock. Not the time you want to be committing a foul if you're Levi Weinrich.
Yeah, just trust your defense, just to let that clock run down as best as you can. They did a good job, Hamline, on defense on that set, double teaming in the corner there. That's when the Blue Jays need to look down low for somebody that has to be wide open.
Targeted Schroeder, and stepping in front is Aguirre. On the break towards Rigg. Blue Jay fans wanted to travel, but Brandon Rigg in transition with the layup, and Hamline is now doubling up the Blue Jays 20-10. McCurdy trying the baseline, thwarted by Hip. Hamline extending out into a trapping zone defense, and Foster dribbles it off of his foot and over the line, a backcourt violation. One of the things you have to credit Hamline with here in the first half is their ability to change looks defensively. They are really keeping Elmhurst on their toes.
And it seems to be working, obviously, for him, Tim. And this is a time where Elmhurst needs to reset, find out exactly how they can adapt to the defense that's going to be put on them. If it's a different defense every set, try to adapt.
Out of the reach of Hip, and a hold is called by the referee, trailing the play. Steve Hanacki, Trent Eshelman, and Tom Warwick are the officials tonight here at R.A. Faginal Hall, as the 7th foul against Elmhurst places Carl Hip at the free throw line. Aaron Schroeder's first. Hip actually played overseas this summer. Competed with the Division III basketball all-star team overseas in Brazil. As he bends at the knees and looks to make it a 12-point edge, which he does. 22-10 with 7:21 to go in the first.
Well, what needs to happen here, Tim, is somebody just needs to simply start a spark. One of these guys needs to control the ball and get this team on their feet to get back into this game again. 12 points down.
And another backcourt violation. Mark Scheer with his arms crossed on the Elmhurst bench, staring up and down his team right now, trying to find some sort of semblance of players that will work. 10 turnovers for the Blue Jays in the first half.
Well, Coach Scheer is going to try to find it in Barnett or Finley, putting the two into the lineup right now to try to see if they can switch things up here on offense and get something rolling.
Seven minutes remaining. Tabor saving it along the baseline. Driving down the center is Tabor, counted in a foul. It was Levi Weinrich to the basket. And he's bothered on the way up, 24-10.
You can definitely see the struggle here, Tim, both sides of the floor for the Blue Jays. Right there, the defense just seeming to be a little bit lazy. Whether or not, I can't tell if it's the focus or really what's going on, but somebody needs to get things controlled on this floor.
5 points for Weinrich as he completes the three-point play, and Hamline by 15. Weinrich all over Fenley, And a hand check foul. Well, with the defense that Hamline is playing, you would think foul trouble's got a tendency to come along with it, but the Blue Jays have got to find a way to make sure that Hamline is forced into foul trouble. That's their 7th of the half. As Levi Weinrich with his first. And Sean Fenley stepping to the line.
Hamlin's putting on a lot of aggressive defense, but with that, they're being smart with it. Trying to keep the Blue Jays off the free throw line as much as they can to not allow any free points to fall through. You're going to see Crane back in the lineup. We also see Zach Boyd out on the floor here, trying to get things started before the half is over.
Boyd has to be very cautious on the defensive side. Fenley able to snap the run with his first free throw, and his second follows suit. 25-12. Fenley with 4 for the Blue Jays. Corner left, Tabor open 3, splash. Have to contest the shots as well.
At least a hand in the face, Tim. It's something I've stressed and always have in the game of basketball. At least contest the shot with a hand in the face.
How about an uncontested long Fenley attempt? Second chance for Bennett, short. Crane fighting underneath, and he is held up. So now it is Crane's turn to step to the line. He also with 2 points for the Blue Jays tonight. Steve Crane at 6'7". Bonus time as he heads to the free throw line. Crane was 1 of 2 at the line Tuesday night. And a fortunate break for Elmhurst. No, it was out off of the Blue Jays. Hamline was in position, but they recognized it was coming out off of Elmhurst.
Just tipped the hands there right at the end of Barnett to put it back into possession of Hamline.
.6:15 remaining. First half of play in Elmhurst. Hamline by 16 on Blue Jay TV. In the lane for Hip. Jump ball is called. And the arrow remains with the Pipers. Weinrich steering around the arc. Here's Tabor into the lane, 3 feet away, off the back iron, and Boyd in solid position for the rebound. Rebounding is as much about positioning as it is about will, and Boyd has a tendency to use both of those to his advantage, despite his 6'3" frame. Out of the reach of Boyd, however, and the Blue Jays tack on another turnover here in the first half. .538 remaining. Weinrich pushing towards the right corner. Swinging around the arc towards the left. Tabor picks up his dribble. Entry pass towards Hip. Left of the lane. Falling out of bounds. And Blue Jay basketball.
Well, it's good to see that they're picking up themselves on the defensive end of the court. Again, Tim, something just has to give here on offense for the Blue Jays.
Just 3 out of 14 in the first half. Bennett double team. That's not where you want to get trapped, and he throws it away. Here's Rigg to the bucket, around Bennett and in. Beautiful scoop.
Just a good move there, Tim. Not much you can do on defense other than exactly what Barnett attempted to do, and he will just float right on by.
McCurdy, right baseline. Over to Ellingson. He'll try an open three-pointer. Got it. First three-pointer of the game for the Blue Jays. They were 0 for their first 5. Elmhurst cuts it in half, 30-15, and the Blue Jays on defense take it away. Here comes McCurdy against Hip as he's challenged to the basket. And Hip was not set. He was backing up. The big 6'8" senior out of Little Canada, Minnesota, is whistled for his second foul.
McCurdy had good vision coming up the court and knew whether or not to slow things down. In his mind, he was just going to let himself adapt to see what the defense was doing. He saw a lane and he took it and finds himself at the free throw line.
She is Gina Vanier. I am Tim Calderwood with you as McCurdy heads to the free throw line here on Blue Jay TV with 4:31 to play. His first free throw drops in. McCurdy out of Burlington Central High School in his third season with Elmhurst. Crowd continuing to file in here after 8 o'clock as well.
Hey, that's good to see, Tim. We love to see the fan support. Anytime you can get people to come out to the game, the home opener for the Blue Jays always keeps things more exciting for the guys out there when they have the support like they do tonight.
First 2 points for McCurdy, 30-17. Little 5-0 run for the Blue Jays. See if perhaps that little bit offensively can help to settle them down a bit. Should mention Elmhurst has been bothered by the injury bug a little bit here early in the season as well. And they are without Joe Acosta early on this year and James Robertson as well. A couple of minor injuries. Both are in street clothes on the Elmhurst bench. Rigg towards the basket. Dumps it off to Andy Voigt.
Yeah, Tim, you mentioned the loss of Joe Acosta as Hamline's just going to continue to rage down the court.
Tell you what, Brandon Rigg has looked very solid tonight handling the point guard position. That is the second behind the back pass we have seen from the Hamline backup point guard. Quick 4-0 answer for Hamline. Crane baseline right from 12. Offensive rebound dropped in by Raphael Oglesby, who did not play on Tuesday night. Oglesby also a transfer out of South Holland, Illinois. Played at a pretty good high school program in Thornwood. Pinnell, open corner right, three-pointer, won't go. Rebound tapped around, and Boyd brings it in strong.
Now's the time to really slow it down, set something up, let's get a play rolling, and use to advantage the forwards you have.
How about Ellingson falling down in the left corner, wanted some contact to no avail. Long rebound to the Pipers, 3-on-1 to the basket. Campbell over the top of Crane. It is 34-19, and the Pipers will spend a timeout with 2:53 remaining in the first half. We step aside as well from Elmhurst. This is Blue Jay TV. .253 to play in the first half. It has been all Hamline. The Pipers out of the Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference leading 36-19. Glad you are with us here on Blue Jay TV. Along with Gina Vanier, I am Tim Calderwood. Elmhurst out of the timeout spent by Hamline. Foster with a left-hand dribble, falling to the floor on a knee, wanting help, and Boyd obliges. Between the legs, over to Ellingson. Crane calling for the basketball, spinning in the low post and dropping it in. How about Oglesby charging in to get in position for the rebound, falling over the top of Crane. That leads Voigt an opportunity to get ahead for the Pipers. Elmhurst trying to take advantage of the fact that Carl Hipp is on the bench for Hamline. And how about the advantage there with the spinning of Voigt without the basketball going with, thus a travel.
Good defense there by Steve Crane of the Blue Jays to get the turnover, and hoping that his team can run some offense here. Cut that lead down a little bit more.
Nearing 2 minutes to go in this first half. Ellingson for Crane. Up high, McCurdy. Around the left wing for Boyd. Back out, it's Oglesby. Targeting Crane, who pops out. Waiting into the left corner. Boyd will dribble to his right around the arc. Dumps off for Ellingson, shot clock's at 10. Ellingson elbow left, bouncing for Crane. Up high, Oglesby, shot clock is at 3. Oglesby hurrying, off balance three-pointer. Banks off the back iron and an offensive rebound. Here's Ellingson falling into the Hamline bench, contact with Tyler Pinnell. And the shot nearly dropped as well, but Ellingson heading to the line for 3 free throws.
Good opportunity here for the Blue Jays to get back on their feet here on offense. Pretty impressed by that last set too. Good movement of the ball around the perimeter, and Steve Crane's working hard down low.
Eric Ellingson, 3 of 3 from the line on Tuesday evening. His first toss is good out of South Elgin, Illinois. Played at St. Charles North High School. A touch under 70% from the line last season, 69.6. And there's his first miss this year. Ellingson, a couple of mock free throws. Looking to trim it to 13. And he does. 36-23. Returning is Weinrich. And right behind him is Tabor. Weinrich, Tabor, Voigt, Aguirre for the Pipers, and Brandon Rigg as well. And there's Rigg in the right corner. Handing off for Tabor, wing left. Up the left edge, Aguirre forced to clear out. Trying the right side, nothing there. Behind the back attempt from Rigg. We've seen a couple behind the back passes. He tried a behind the back dribble and dribbled it off his backside, but saves possession. 10 to shoot. Tabor picks up his dribble left corner into Voigt. Fails to bank home a 6-footer. Boyd blocks out underneath. McCurdy towards the basket. Contact on the way with 56 seconds remaining in the half. Boy, if Elmhurst can find a way to, oh my goodness, they're going to call this an offensive foul. I was about to say if Elmhurst could find a way to get this under double digits going into the locker room, they would have to feel very happy about that. Getting an opportunity to make some adjustments. But it is an offensive foul against Steve Crane.
I think it's just that, Tim. I think going into the half, what you're going to have to do is find out how you're going to adapt to Hamline's defense. Coach Schreer is going to have to find a good way to do that, and also how to simply get the offense rolling for the Blue Jays.
20 seconds between the shot and the game clock. Cutting towards the basket is Aguirre, nearly losing it on the left baseline, clearing out towards Tabor. His 3 won't drop, but an offensive rebound by Voigt. And now Hamline will hold for the final shot as their head coach Nelson Whitmore calling out the directions. Weinrich between the circles, dribbles left in front of the Elmhurst bench. Backing up, Ellingson on him very lightly. Down to 14 seconds. We'll have to see how long it takes for Hamline to start to move. Here's Tabor looking for the cutting Aguirre out of his reach. And it's into the cheerleaders with 5.7. Eric Ellingson will inbound. Mark Scheer calling for a screen as McCurdy races across the timeline. And we've got a whistle. They say the clock never started. Is that what happened? So they'll put 5.7 back up. The officials will get together here. They did put 5.7 back on the clock. So how about a second attempt at that last second play for the Blue Jays?
Well, they're not going to be able to cut it down from double digits, but we can see if this will put them right at 10.
Good look for Oglesby in the corner, but his three-pointer is off. And we head to the half with the Pipers leading by 13. 36-23 is the score in what was a first half dominated by the visitors from Hamline. Yet I think Elmhurst, as that half came to a close, was able to come up with some slight adjustments to kind of get settled a little bit offensively. Hamline started to cool off a bit as well. They had some chances there late to try to push it under double digits, but considering they were down by 18 at one point, to be trailing by 13, well, you'd like to be up by 13, obviously, but the Blue Jays are in a position here where they can spend some time in the locker room working some things out.
Sure, absolutely. You've got the half to kind of relax and, again, adjust to the defense that Hamline's putting on the Blue Jays, which has been a difficult one to adapt to for the Blue Jays. Clearly shown by the scoreboard right now, but lots of game time left in this one, Tim. And this is the opportunity for the Blue Jays to come right back out and start things with a little bit of fire and spark and get the offense going.
36-23, our score at the break. We will step aside. You'll get a chance to view the sights here at R.A. Faginal Hall, and we'll come back on before the end of the half with some numbers. This is Blue Jay TV. Halftime in Elmhurst from R.A. Faginal Hall. So glad you're with us on Blue Jay TV. It's the home opener for the Elmhurst College men's basketball squad. Along with Gina Veneer, I am Tim Calderwood. As the Blue Jays trailing 36-23, there are a few numbers that pop out at me when you look at the numbers here from the first half. Hamline shot 55% from the floor, 15 out of 27. And when you consider that they were just 2 of 8 from three-point range, Gina, that means one thing. There were an awful lot of easy baskets. 14 points off of 13 Elmhurst turnovers in the first half.
That's one of the numbers that I circled, Tim, too, is the points off turnovers, something that Hamline's taking advantage of when they do get the ball back in their possession. They're scoring from it, and Elmhurst has to really step up their defense. And clearly, down by 13 with that much of a deficit, they obviously need to get something rolling on the offense, which is just kind of a broken record for me on the first half, and kind of my advice to the team and how they need to come out and spark things up here in the second half.
Let's point out a couple of positives for the Blue Jays. First of all, their rebounding margin. Out-rebounding a bigger Hamline team 16-12 in the first half, including 5 offensive rebounds, which led to 4 second-chance points. They did a decent job defensively on Carl Hipp, a potential All-American candidate in the post for Hamline. One of the other big numbers for the Blue Jays, the performance at the free throw line. 12 free throw attempts for Elmhurst in the first half compared to just 5 for Hamline. The Blue Jays with 10 of their 23 points from the line, 10 of 12, 83%. But on the minus side of things, Elmhurst shooting under 30% in the opening 20 minutes, 6 of 21, 28.6%, of which just 1 of 8 from three-point range. So both teams struggling from the outside. Look at the individual numbers for Hamline, balance across the board. Mike Campbell, Carl Hipp, Brandon Rigg, and Christian Tabor with 6 points each. Levi Weinrich with 5, 3 for Noah Aguirre, 2 for Jordan Schmidt, 2 also for Andy Voigt. For the Blue Jays, Zach Boyd with 6, most of those coming very early. Eric Ellingson 5, Sean Fenley and Steve Crane 4 apiece, 2 from Raphael Oglesby and Mike McCurdy. And we are ready to begin the second half of play. It will be Elmhurst basketball. See if Mark Scheer does anything with his lineup here to start the second half, and indeed he will. A little bit of a different look with Mike McCurdy, Eric Ellingson, Aaron Schroeder, Raphael Oglesby, and Zach Boyd, the 5 on the floor for the Blue Jays, who are in the white, moving left to right as you watch at home. Eric Ellingson picking up his dribble here on the first offensive possession of the second half. First 5 minutes are going to be key for the Blue Jays to try to work their way back into this contest. Corner right for Ellingson, clearing out all the way back towards the half-court line. Picking up his dribble, swinging to Oglesby, high left. Shot clock down to 10. Ellingson pushing into the right wing. Boyd along the baseline. A floating 10-footer is through.
Tim, you couldn't be more right on that first 5 minutes and the importance of that amount of time for the Blue Jays. Here to come off and start things off the way it should be. Well, there you go.
How about a turnover off the back of Aaron Schroeder's head. He will receive an assist for that particular steal. Boyd lobbing for Oglesby. It's tapped in the lane. Schroeder blocked by Hip. Hip, the Hamline career leader in blocks with almost 200 in his career. It is the starting five for Hamline: Jordan Schmidt, Mike Campbell, Levi Weinrich, Noah Aguirre, and Carl Hip. Hip is held in the post by Aaron Schroeder.
Well, just a little tripped up there, and he knew he had to get his left hand out to get the proper sort of stance for defense, but unfortunately just kind of hung on to him a little too hard there.
36-25 with 18:47 to play in the home opener for the Blue Jays. Elmhurst last season here at R.A. Faginal Hall just 3-8, and another stop for Elmhurst on defense. They've got to start turning them into points on the offensive side as well. McCurdy using a screen from Oglesby, angling around the arc to the left. Dumping off for Ellingson. Here's Oglesby, picking up his dribble, back to Ellingson, high left. Ball high above his head, one dribble and he throws it into the bench. He was expecting Zach Boyd to break towards the corner, and the miscommunication results in the 14th turnover of the game for Elmhurst. And a substitution for Mark Scheer as Schroeder exits and Steve Crane enters.
Well, one thing I think that's very important, Tim, as you mentioned, these first 5 minutes, you do have a lot of time. However, getting things rolling right away is going to be essential for the Blue Jays to get back in this thing.
Mark Scheer chatting with Schroeder. One of the things I like about Coach Scheer, oftentimes when a player comes out, he'll pull them aside and point some things out to help them for the next time they return to the floor. Travel as Schmidt lost his footing. Well, no points for Hamline thus far. 2 turnovers and a missed shot in their first 3 possessions of the half. We are 2 minutes into the second. McCurdy drawing in the defense, clearing it out to Ellingson on the left wing. Hamline opens in the 2-3 trap zone. Crane, baseline left, lost it off of his foot. Tuani Aguirre scoops it up.
Again, something Blue Jays need to adapt to. As you mentioned, Tim, the 2-3 zone that Hamline's putting on, that's something where you can get some outside shots usually taken.
Campbell, open look at a 3. No, rebound kept alive by Hip. 20 rebounds in the season opening loss to Northwestern. 20 rebounds last year against Elmhurst. Yeah, he's put together a pretty quiet contest. Elmhurst is making sure that he doesn't beat them. And a 3-second call against Hip. So the 3rd turnover for Hamline, who remains scoreless here in the second half. But the Blue Jays have got to start chipping away.
You're right, Tim, they really do. And right now what's going to happen is kind of slow down, find a pace, set up a play, use Crane to your advantage, and even in this case, going to reset with even a little extra time as Coach Scheer calls a timeout.
I think this is a good spot for a timeout to try to settle this team down here early in the second half. 17:06 to play in Elmhurst. Hamline 36, Elmhurst 25. This is Blue Jay TV. Elmhurst trailing by 11 early in the second half. Mark Scheer taking a timeout as the Blue Jays look to whittle away the Hamline lead a chance to push it under double digits for the first time since very early in the first half of play.
I think what we're seeing, Tim, is a more focused set of offense here for the Blue Jays. The guys that are in the lineup right now are seeing the floor pretty well and trying to get open shots, quite frankly.
Ellingson throws it off the knee of Campbell. Up high for Boyd, around the arc. Ellingson pops out, left corner, open three-pointer, bingo! Yeah. A big three for Ellingson.
Absolutely, a very big three-point shot by number 33 himself. That's going to put them right back on their feet here.
Hands in the passing lane. Crane denied the entry pass. 3.5 minutes into the second. Hamline is stuck on 36, and the Blue Jays are within 8.
Well, we've cut it down to single digits. Is exactly what they want to do. Start chipping away at the deficit that was at 13 at the start of the half, and they're doing a good job thus far.
Good look for Oglesby. Low right off the glass and in. 36-30. Weinrich around a defender towards the basket. And he will have the opportunity to put points on the board for Hamline here for the first time in the second half. It has taken 3 minutes and 57 seconds. And the Pipers do not have any points, but Weinrich will look to change that. 5 points in the first half, 1 of 1 at the line. Weinrich failed to score in the season opener in 18 minutes of playing time. His first free throw fails to fall in as well. Here's Sean Fenley off of the Elmhurst bench.
Well, no matter what way you look at it, at this rate right now, missing that first free throw shot, it was a good foul by Ellingson.
The second free throw is good for Weinrich, who departs. Brandon Rigg, who played flawlessly at the point guard position in the first half, will replace his counterpart. 37-30. Hamline by 7.
Yeah, I like the lineup that's in right now for the Blue Jays, Tim. You're seeing a few forwards that can do the job down low, and of course with Boyd and McCurdy in, they've got a hot hand on the shot. Somebody you're going to want to put the ball in the hands of.
Almost a 2-1-2 look from Hamline zone-wise as McCurdy is tripped up. The thing with the Elmhurst lineup right now, they have 2 forwards out there in Oglesby and Crane. They both can step out and shoot as well. Third foul against Mike Campbell. First of the half against the Pipers.
Well, I think that's something exactly a head coach is going to want. Somebody that's versatile, that can do things, step back and take a jump shot, while also being a major threat down low.
Fenley in the right corner. Along the baseline, he's got the big 6'8" frame of Hip around him. And Hip gets the better of that battle, but Elmhurst retains possession with 22 to shoot. Tyler Pinnell, freshman out of Portland, Oregon. Plenty of time for the Blue Jays. McCurdy off the dribble, tosses it along the knee of Jordan Schmidt.
Now, one thing I have noticed here on the first set of the start of the second half, for that matter, is we're trying to force the ball a little bit too much down low. I think if we just reset, allow ourselves to calm down on offense, things are just going to start clicking.
Fenley finding an opening at the left elbow. Oglesby off, and a foul on the rebound. They'll say Crane pushed off. Second foul on Crane. Third against the Blue Jays. Tyler Pinnell amongst his teammates. Denied on the baseline. Cutting to the basket is Hip. Good ball movement. Pinnell drove in, dumped off to Tabor with Hip cutting to the basket for an open deuce.
Well, Blue Jays have scored 7 points with only 5 minutes ticked off the clock here, and they've held Hamline to only score 3. If we can keep at that pace, we're going to be in good shape, Tim.
A block against Brandon Rigg. Aaron Schroeder returns. He will replace Crane. So a little bit of a smaller look for Elmhurst again. Schroeder at 6'4", the tallest player on the floor for the Blue Jays. He'll draw the assignment of hip in the post. Good ball movement. McCurdy fading away. His three-pointer's off to the left. Falling out of bounds. Fenley failed to save the rebound. Tried to throw it off of Tabor, but his foot was down before he could. .14.5 to play. 39-30, Hamline with the lead. Elmhurst in the man. Kind of a loose man. They're doing a good job of doubling down on Hip. Hip steps in, right-handed hook shot, no, but a follow-up. Nobody to box out the big 6'8" senior.
Fundamentals, Tim, you got to stress it at halftime. You got to stress it all the time in any program, and that's just what we saw, the lack thereof on that last possession, unfortunately.
And a turnover for the Blue Jays as well. Elmhurst whittled the lead to 6 at the start of the second half, and Hamline has responded. They have scored 5 unanswered to once again stretch it to double digits at 11. Brandon Rigg knocked away by Deontay Foster. Is entered for Elmhurst. Jordan Schmidt to the right edge. Open in the corner. Tabor's three-pointer, short off the front iron. Long rebound out to Schmidt. He will set it up. Now Elmhurst trying a little bit of a zone look as well, as Schmidt will try from the left corner. No. And Fenley with the rebound. Not a bad idea when a team's struggling from the outside to basically say, beat us from the outside by switching to the zone.
Absolutely.
Foster is tied up and a foul. Schmidt reaching in.
You're absolutely right, Tim, on that last set of defense for the Blue Jays. A 2-3 zone is definitely what you're going to want to look for on defense there. Switch things up and make Hamline adapt.
Three fouls apiece. 13-10 to go. Boyd spotting up at the right turn. Splash. A 19-footer. His foot was on the line. Here comes Hamline in transition. Schmidt races ahead for an uncontested layup.
It's something like that that you can really get no motivation after something like that happens, when you get beat so bad on defense after what you thought could have really sparked the offense. No time to celebrate.
Foster picked up his dribble. Oglesby in the opening, hesitating. Mid-range jumper is good from 12.
It was a good look, great look there to get the 2 points in for the Blue Jays.
I think he was surprised nobody came out on it. Now in the left corner, it's Pinnell. Three-pointer again, got it.
Just a lot of back and forth offense is what we're seeing right now, and both teams a lack of a lot of defense.
46-34. Fenley open, following with the right hand and a friendly roll. Fenley starting to feel it.
Just can't leave guys open though, Tim, and unfortunately for number 4 here for Hamline, he's on fire. Somebody you just can't leave open, Tyler Pinnell, the freshman actually from Hamline. We saw him wide open in the corner 2 times, and he hasn't been able to disappoint us.
The same spot twice in a row. 49-37 is the score. Hamline by 12 with 11:57 remaining. We've got a timeout on the floor, and we will break. This is Blue Jay TV. The lead is a dozen for Hamline in the home opener for Elmhurst. On Blue Jay TV, I'm Tim Calderwood. Gina Veneer is with me this evening, as she will be throughout the 2010-2011 campaign.
Yeah, Tim, glad to be here. Glad to be a part of it all. Blue Jay basketball was here last night for the women. I'm an athlete here on the campus myself as a member of the softball team. Lots of passion in all the sports and a huge fan.
Schroeder, elbow left, knocked away and stolen by the Pipers. Tabor high above his head. Hamline will wait. This gives Elmhurst an opportunity to set up the zone. Straight 2-3. Blue Jays rotating around the arc. It's a little bit of a different look from Hamline. Hamline with a trapping 2-3 zone, and in the right corner, Pinnell will try. After making two from the left edge, Pinnell in the right corner fails to convert, and the Blue Jays come away. Again, I think you're content to allow that shot. Ellingson, right-hand dribble to Foster, head and shoulder fake. Foster this time will try it. 23 feet away, no, but a putback by Schroeder. Elmhurst taking advantage of the fact that 6'8" Carl Hipp is on the bench. Andy Voigt is 6'5", taking over in the post.
Great second effort there by Schroeder. And again, Tim, as you mentioned on the last set of defense for the Blue Jays, the 2-3 zone, something that you are going to allow this outside shot to take place, but it's a risk you're definitely willing to take. Setting up that 2-3 zone, that's exactly ideally what you want to happen.
Foster coast to coast, and one. Down to 8. Off of a missed three-pointer from Pinnell. And if you're Hamline and head coach Nelson Whitmore, you've got to be telling your team, okay, it worked a couple of times. Stop going there. And they won't be able to go there again because Pinnell is now on the bench. Deontay Foster with his first 2 points of the game. A coast-to-coast layup. But the free throw is off the back iron, and Voigt reels it in for the Pipers.
This is exactly where the Blue Jays need a major stop on defense here, Tim, to get themselves back on offense and keep cutting away and starting to creep their way towards a chance against this team.
Ellingson attempts to tie up Aguirre, who falls out of bounds. Nearing the midway point of the second half, Elmhurst trailing by 8. The Blue Jays chipped away at the deficit to start the second half, pulled within 6 at 36-30. Fell behind again by 12, and now they have dwindled the lead to 8, and an opportunity to match their smallest deficit of the second half. Fenley is open, wing right, three-pointer, bingo! There's the shooter that the CCIW knows well. Sean Fenley with a three-pointer to pull the Blue Jays within 5, 49-44. The switch to the zone appears to be working, and a travel for Weinrich. He was thinking about the three-pointer, tried to get his defender to bite and drive instead, and the slight hesitation results in a turnover.
And that hesitation, Tim, exactly what we just saw, is thanks to the 2-3 defense put on by the Blue Jays. He thought he had an open lane, but when you get that extra guy to creep in from defense, it causes a hesitation, and in that case, causes a turnover.
Fenley again, this time from the left side, in and out. Crane on the rebound, knocks down his defender Campbell, who was a little slow to get up off of the hardwood. Mark Scheer a little displeased with the call. Third foul against Steve Crane. That was a big miss by Fenley. A chance to pull the Blue Jays within 2. See what the defense can do here. Still plenty of time at 9:19 remaining. Around the arc it goes. Campbell tries to draw the zone in, bouncing in between for Hipp, and Ellingson takes it away. Ellingson racing right, finding Fenley. Backs up between the circles. Here's McCurdy, high left. For Fenley again, around the arc towards the right corner. Boyd is open, spot up 18-footer. And a timeout for Hamline. Here come the Blue Jays. With 8:46 remaining, Elmhurst within 3 at 49-46. And we pause for the timeout. This is Blue Jay TV. What a difference a half makes. Welcome back to R.A. Faginal Hall on the campus of Elmhurst College. Blue Jay TV coverage of the men's basketball home opener for Elmhurst. A couple of schools looking for their first win of the young 2010-2011 campaign. Both suffered close losses on Tuesday. Hamline by a point despite a 7-0 run late in the contest. And the Blue Jays, after a Mike McCurdy three-pointer to tie the game with 9 seconds left, fell in overtime at Cornell, 75-70. Along with Gina Veneer, I am Tim Calderwood. The 2-3 zone switch appears to have worked for the Blue Jays. Aguirre, corner left, hits the 18-footer from just inside the arc. But again, the Blue Jays are content to allow Hamline to take those jumpers. As long as they're not getting beat inside right now. Here is Fenley passing on a three-pointer. Rotating out for McCurdy. Back along the baseline for Crane. A head fake to the basket. Tried to dunk. Hip with the rebound is tied up. And Hip is frustrated clearly for Hamline right now. That's always a good sign as well. Let's find out what's going on here. Whistle is on Elmhurst and Crane, his fourth.
Well, Tim, with a little over 8 minutes left in this game, having a guy like Steve Crane sitting on the bench, which may be for the majority of the rest of this game, is a difficult thing to swallow for Coach Mark Scheer. He's a guy you want on the floor during the last few minutes of this game to keep them in this thing.
Campbell bouncing for Aguirre. Back to Campbell. Patrolling the arc to his right and an offensive foul. Hip with his hands on his head in disbelief. It is his third.
Well, Elmhurst has definitely got to take advantage of the break that they're just given. Tim, we're within 5 points here. We've got a lot of game left to play, and you talked about the first 5 minutes being important, but I think what we've seen is a consistency among this team throughout the second half, a sense of focus, and something that they just need to stick with for these last 7 minutes of the game. And again, refocus, like on plays like that, just kind of reset. Having it so close to that half-court line is difficult to get something set up and to work the post down low.
Warning, if you sit courtside, protect your computers. Bruce Hill, the public address announcer here at R.A. Faginal Hall. Well, his computer got the best of the Sean Fenley pass. Unfortunately, that was not the intended target. Campbell to the basket, counted it a foul. That is the second foul against McCurdy, as Raphael Oglesby will replace Eric Ellingson. 53-46, Campbell to finish the three-point play. And he does that. 9 points for Campbell. He's the leading scorer for Hamline. McCurdy up the right edge of the lane, clearing out to Boyd. Elbow left from 16, it's good.
Wow, difficult shot to make there, and Boyd does it just so smoothly. After making the jump to actually complete the pass, he then resets his feet and makes an excellent shot.
14 points for Boyd, a quiet 14 to lead Elmhurst in a game high at this point. Under 7 minutes remaining. Campbell for three. In and out. Boyd with the rebound over the top of Aguirre. And that's what I'm talking about when I say sometimes rebounding is just a will. You got to want to go get that basketball. McCurdy for three to slice it in half. 54-51. Aguirre looking for Hip, knocked away. Oglesby with his hands in the passing lane. Tips it to McCurdy, who trudges ahead and picks up his dribble. Schroeder over to Finley. A three would tie it. Oglesby against Hip, down the center of the lane, pushed from behind.
Yeah, we'll take it, Tim. Put him at the line, give him a chance here to put this game within a point. Here, if he can sink these two.
You're gonna catch a hot dog tonight?
Well, you know, I am on the softball team, so I'm somebody that you can trust. At least your laptop will probably be safe if one of them gets launched up here.
Stand up and give it a go. I would be very impressed if it finds its way up here.
Well, you know, you'd think they would see the reporter, of all people. I'm in the middle of the I'm pretty sure that might be a cheeseburger.
Or a pork sandwich. Oh, yeah. Look at this. He's playing up the crowd. First free throw from Oglesby falls in with 5:59 remaining.
I don't think he sees me. This is hilarious.
Folks, you literally can't see. Gina is on her feet right now, waving her arms. That would take some kind of toss to be able to get it up to you.
Yeah.
Second free throw rims out to the left, and I think you lost the battle.
Yeah, he found a young girl in the second row there. I mean, apparently it's just a battle I unfortunately lost, Tim.
Hip in the lane, couldn't dunk. Tried to switch hands, and the flush was no good with the right.
Well, the rim won that battle against Hip, too, in the advantage of Elmhurst.
McCurdy to Finley for the lead. Yeah. You bet. 55-54. How about the performance of Sean Finley off the bench for the Blue Jays?
Hey, that's a guy right there that you're glad is eligible to play and to be on your court, coming from a different CCIW team. We're glad to have him as a Blue Jay.
13 points for Finley, three three-pointers. In his first appearance in front of his hometown fans with the Blue Jays, the product of York High School. Elmhurst in front. They trailed by as many as 17 in the first half.
Well, Tim, if he keeps making such clutch shots as we just saw, Finley's going to be a fan favorite.
55-54. Free throw line extended for Oglesby. He pivots the 16-footer off the back iron. And on the rebound, a foul. Finley tangling with Jordan Schmidt. First foul on Finley. And the seventh foul against the Blue Jays will mean free throws the rest of the evening for Hamline.
Well, we're under 5 minutes now, Tim, and we are going to see maybe a few players coming to the line, getting a couple of free shots, at least a 1-and-1 at this pace. And any foul will put both teams at the line.
1-and-1 for Schmidt. His first toss tickles the twine. First free throw of the night for Schmidt. His second one, just like the first. And Hamline steps in front, 56-55. Finley scrambles to get to the basketball between the circles. To the left wing for Boyd. Ellingson pops out. Schroeder above his head towards Finley on the dribble. Hounded by Schmidt defensively. Shot clock is under 10. Here's Foster crossing over using a screen from Ellingson. Collision with Schmidt. Jordan Schmidt's third foul, and it is now bonus time for the Blue Jays.
Well, the shot clock was down to 4. poor defense simply there, represented by Hamline. Putting a guy at the line, able to put in a few points, get this thing at least, hopefully, tied back up here.
First free throw make of the evening for Foster. He was unsuccessful trying to complete a three-point play earlier. The score is tied at 56. One more for Foster. Spins out but drops back home. And now it is the Blue Jays in front. Elmhurst continuing with the zone. Fenley reaches out and pokes it into the crowd. Enter Steve Crane with 4 fouls in the post.
Now it's tough to not take a look at the fact that Crane does have 4 fouls, but if he's just simply stays aggressive and smart on defense, he's going to be able to stay in this game and also produce. He's in this game for the offensive side of the court at this point. Defense, he's not going to be able to do much for us with 4 fouls under his belt. He's really got to show us what he has on offense at this point.
Schmidt right of the ink to put the Pipers ahead. 58-57. Ellingson along the baseline, leans in, gets it back, underneath, dropped in, but an offensive foul. Referee on top of the play saying Ellingson lowered his shoulder to try to gain separation on the way up. That is his second, and he heads to the bench as McCurdy and Oglesby return. Down to 3:39. And a timeout for Hamline. The Pipers lead by 1 in the home opener for Elmhurst tonight here at R.A. Fagel Hall. 58-57 is the score. This is Blue Jay TV. A timeout for Hamline. 3:33 to play. The visitors by 1 at 58-57. Elmhurst with 8 fouls, 7 for Hamline as both teams are in the bonus. Our next broadcast will come your way on December 8th. We'll have wrestling for you, a dual meet against Lakeland out of the Northern Athletics Conference. Knocked away from Schmidt.
All right, Tim, now's the time.
Next basketball appearance here on Blue Jay TV, Thursday, December 9th against Kalamazoo. Boyd, right of the lane, short. A little too hard to the basket as Pinnell reels it in. The Blue Jays remain in the zone. Inside for Hip, up and in.
Hard to contest Hip, not only with his height, but the fact that Crane has 4 fouls. He's just a hands-up guy right now on defense and can't be too overly aggressive.
A 3-point advantage for Hamline at 60-57. Here's Crane around Hip. The friendly roll. Good job of changing directions. Crane switched hands and used the friendly roll to finish. Boy, if he can emerge for this Elmhurst team, it'll be a huge help. Stepping out is Tabor. Open look at a 3. Nope. And there's Crane with a rebound. McCurdy tries the right side for the lead, off the glass and in. A nice use of the window as the Blue Jays take the lead at 61-60.
As I mentioned earlier in the game, Tim, McCurdy, excellent vision, saw a window, used it to his advantage.
High rebound for Hip. He'll get a third opportunity.
All right. That's all you can ask for at this point.
A foul will place Hip on the free throw line. He rebounded the Pennell miss and then followed his own miss. And he will head to the line following the first foul whistled against Raphael Oglesby. Carl Hip has been quiet last season in this game, 24 points and 20 rebounds. 19 points and 20 rebounds in his season debut for the two-time Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Player of the Week a year ago. Also chosen to the all-conference team and all-defensive team as well. But his first free throw fails to drop. And Hip will try again. This, though, to even the score. It's good. Hip is 2 of 4 at the line today. And this game is even at 61 with under 2 minutes to play. Oglesby high left towards McCurdy on the right wing. Crane will pop out. He'll dribble to his left. Shot is at 15. Oglesby fakes left, comes back right, forced to back up with 10 to shoot. Here's McCurdy right down the center. Count it, and a foul. McCurdy just taking it to the basket, getting aggressive. He now has 9 and an opportunity to reach double digits. He scored 8 in the season opening loss at Cornell. He has double digits tonight with 10. A 3-point lead for the Blue Jays, 64-61.
Couldn't ask for much more out of the junior in Mike McCurdy.
Campbell through the teeth. Shuffles it in with the right hand.
And that's a kid, Tim, that you really want on the floor at this point. Coach Mark Scheer is going to keep him there, of course, after he shows the efforts that he's been putting on the offensive side of the floor.
Campbell needs to stop. Under a minute remaining. 64-63. McCurdy spinning, lost the basketball with a late whistle as Brandon Rigg poked it away in addition to a piece of the arm. And McCurdy to the line where he is 3 of 3 tonight. Gina will have the opportunity following the contest to head down to the floor and chat with head coach Mark Scheer. We will have that for you in our post-game coverage. Hopefully following the first Elmhurst win of the season as Mike McCurdy's first free throw falls through. The 9th foul against the Pipers. The next one will allow the Blue Jays to shoot 2. 65-63. And McCurdy is a perfect 5 of 5 at the stripe. 3-point edge, 66-63. Rigg backing up at the top of the key. Fenley on him defensively. Blue Jays tightening up a little bit defensively. They're still in the zone. Hook shot from Hip. Dead on from 5 feet. And a timeout for Hamline. 32 and 4/10 to go. The shot clock has gone dark as Hamline will take a 30-second timeout, trailing by 1. You would assume, Gina, that it's pretty simple here. If you don't get the steal or force the turnover, you foul right away. Yeah,
I think that's definitely something that the Blue Jay team right now is probably discussing. You know, it's something you're going to take a chance with. They've taken a chance, Tim, as we've seen in the second half with this 2-3 defense set, which has seemed to come as a success. Probably something that Coach Mark Scheer wanted to talk about at the halftime to these guys and see if it would work. And so far, it's done a good job. And the Blue Jays are really getting themselves right back into this game. And we're under a minute now.
Elmhurst, an 80% free throw shooting team tonight. They will try to get into the hands of their best shooters. Sean Fenley, 2 of 2. Mike McCurdy, 5 of 5. Zach Boyd, 4 of 4. McCurdy is the inbounder. He will bounce it into Boyd, who is quickly surrounded by 3 Hamline players, and an offensive foul. Oh, boy. Now the question becomes, if you're Hamline, do you use every bit of the final 28 seconds to try to win it? And the fans are not happy. So well, the officials will talk this one over.
Yeah, they are definitely going to call the offensive foul on Boyd. Lowering the shoulder is just something that became obvious. I mean, he was surrounded by 3 guys there.
Wait a minute. Here's what the problem is. They called an intentional foul on Zach Boyd. Stepping to the free throw line is Noah Aguirre. And the fans are letting the officials know about it with 28 seconds to go. An intentional foul for swinging the elbow. Aguirre's first free throw drops in. And the game is tied. Aguirre, 3 of 4 at the line. This for the lead. Yes. 67-66 Hamline. And the Pipers have the ball. Wow.
Yeah, well, really, Tim, just an unfortunate train of events there. I mean, the intentional foul making it in the possession of Hamline after 2 free throw shots, both which were successful.
Shot clock's off. You got a foul. Campbell's dribbling it out. Boyd is on him, and he will finally foul, but not after 8 seconds tick away. Campbell is 1 of 1 at the line tonight. Everybody for Hamline's been pretty good at the free throw line. And that is the 10th against the Blue Jays, so Campbell will shoot 2. Well, last evening in the women's game, we saw an Elmhurst 3-pointer at the buzzer to force overtime. Could we see it here tonight in the men's contest? Following a controversial intentional foul, an intentional offensive foul, something you never see, Zach Boyd put Hamline to the line to take the lead. Campbell's first free throw is short.
Without a doubt, Tim, a rare call.
Is second in. And the Pipers by 2 at 68-66 with 20 seconds to go.
Well, we've got some options on the floor now.
Boyd using a screen from Schroeder. Pulls up, 18-footer off. Rebounded by Schmidt, who's quickly fouled by Boyd. It will be his 5th. Zach Boyd will foul out with 14 points tonight. And with 8.1 remaining, Hamline will head to the line for 2 vital free throws. Well, standing in the way of a 2-possession game is Jordan Schmidt.
You're right, Tim, a chance for this Hamline team to make this a 2-possession game. And with 8 seconds left, makes it a very difficult chance for the Blue Jays to overcome that 2-possession game.
Well, you get 30 seconds to talk it over. And so both teams will use the opportunity to gather the troops. Deontay Foster will enter to take the place of Boyd. Foster, McCurdy, Schroeder, Ellingson, and Fenley for the Blue Jays as they break the huddle. For Hamline, it is Schmidt, Rigg, Campbell, Hip, and Aguirre. Schmidt to the line. The crowd lets him hear about it as his first free throw drops in. And a big toss upcoming for the sophomore out of Northbrook, Illinois. The only player on the Hamline roster from Illinois. He prepped at a very solid Glenbrook North program, and it drops out. 3-point lead at 69-66. McCurdy to Schroeder. 3-pointer for the tie. He is fouled. With 1.7 remaining, Schroeder will head to the line for 3 free throws on a careless foul from Noah Aguirre. Schroeder's not necessarily the man the Blue Jays would like to have had taking that 3-point shot, but he was the only option, and Aguirre stepped out and got a piece of the arm.
Well, the heart rates are going to be going right now, I think, for not only everybody in the stands, but take a look at a guy like Aaron Schroeder. He is on the line right now with 1.7 seconds remaining in this game. And basically, unfortunately, how it turns out, it's all on his shoulders.
Third on the team last season at 80% from the free throw line. Schroeder tonight has yet to step to the line for the Blue Jays after a 3 of 7 showing on Tuesday night at Cornell. The first one is key. If the first one doesn't fall, you need to make the second and then intentionally miss the third to try to tip in at the buzzer and force OT. Schroeder will have 3 free throws with the Blue Jays down 3. They've trailed by as many as 17 tonight. Have come back with a valiant second half effort. Schroeder's first free throw in.
All right. Well, Tim, now it's just let's go for the gold. Try to put these 2 in no matter what. And I think even if you miss this shot, well, take a look here.
Which he does.
Yeah, and I was going to say you might. What do you think the route here is to take? Well, fortunately for the Blue Jays, we have a timeout remaining, and now they're going to reset and talk things over.
Well, I think you've got to get a bigger lineup in, and right away, Steve Crane heads to the scorer's table. The question is, how do you miss it intentionally? With 1.7, you have to get a clean break. But I've also seen guys try to miss intentionally, and they haven't hit anything. You have to hit the rim on a free throw for it to technically count as an attempt. And so Mark Scheer will try to draw it up to his best here. The Blue Jays rebounding today have been pretty solid. They've only been out rebounded by 2 at 28-26. This is a must rebound.
Well, the scenario here is a difficult one to practice for, Tim. And this is something you talk about as a team coming down under 2 minutes of the game when things are very tight. However, one thing that you don't take into account at practices is the level of intensity. Not only that, but the crowd. You've got a lot of action. The atmosphere is very much heated right now, a lot of hearts racing, and that's something that you have to practice. And of course, drawing up this play here, he's trying to put a scenario on the free throw line to have it be a good bounce, hopefully into the hands of a guy like Steve Crane, something that he could easily just put up a 2-point layup.
The other thing you need to be wary of is entering the lane early.
Sure, definitely.
Can't do that either. So Schroeder missed the second free throw. The Blue Jays have only 2 players in the lane, in Oglesby and Crane. Schroeder is at the line with 1 7/10 remaining. Down by 2. It is off. And a lane violation. It is against the Blue Jays. That is exactly what you didn't want to do. As a lane violation doesn't even give Elmhurst a chance. It looked like they had a pretty good bounce off of the free throw miss as well. But we didn't have an opportunity to see what happened because it was whistled off. And a lane violation. And now Elmhurst needs a turnover. Hamline will talk it over to make sure they have a play to break the press. 69-67, Hamline over Elmhurst. 1.7 on the clock. Aaron Schroeder was fouled at the top of the key, attempting the tying three-pointer. Missed the first free throw. Made the first free throw, missed the second. And on his third attempt, which would have been an intentional miss, a lane violation was whistled against Elmhurst. And so we stand. And again, we remind you that you will hear from the general of the Blue Jays, Mark Scheer, following the contest. Gina Veneer will head down and chat with the 15th year Blue Jay bench boss. What do you have?
Well, Tim, trying to draw up a few questions now. It's difficult when you get to a game that is at this level of intensity. Now, I know we're early on in the season. It is the home opener. But it's tough. You don't want to you don't want to say that, too many little mistakes were made, but at the beginning of the season, you want to find out these little mistakes, work on them, and that's something that I'm sure Coach Shear will talk about to us.
Aaron Schroeder is the safety net. He's back at the half-court line to guard against the home run. Now Eric Ellingson will come over to help as well. Hamline does inbound. Fenley reaching out, a piece of Christian Tabor's jersey. And just 7/10 tick away. Hamline was looking for an intentional foul. There was an intentional foul called against Elmhurst on the offensive end, which is really what has turned the game. And they will put 2/10 back on the clock. It is at 1.2. And now it is clutch time for Hamline. Christian Tabor to the free throw line. Honestly, in this situation, I think you missed the second intentionally. First one's through. Or you can just hit the second and end the game that way, too. But if you were to miss it, you give Elmhurst an opportunity to tie with a heave. Hamline 14 of 19 at the line tonight. Tabor readies. Attempt number 2 is through. 71-67. Fenley with a three-quarter court heave. Won't even reach the basket. And the contest comes to a close. Mark Shear not particularly pleased with the officials as they depart R.A. Fagottle Hall tonight. 71-67 the final score. The Blue Jays were up 1 with the basketball, but an intentional offensive foul whistled against Zach Boyd led to 2 free throws and a Hamline lead. Possession to go with it, stretching the advantage to 3 points. And the Pipers record win number 1 of the 2010-2011 season, 71-67, and their first victory over Elmhurst as well. Back with the post-game show in moments. This is Blue Jay TV. (71-67) is the final score. Hamline over Elmhurst. Tonight here at R.A. Fagottle Hall, we have Gina Vanier down with the head coach of the Blue Jays, Mark Shear, who undoubtedly will talk a little bit about the strange ending to the contest tonight.
Gina Vanier here courtside with head coach of the Elmhurst College Blue Jays, Mark Shear. And Mark, talk a little bit about how you guys came out after the second half. We saw a different team, and unfortunately it didn't end to final success, losing by 4 points. However, we saw a different Blue Jay team, both on offensive defense. What did you stress at halftime to your guys?
I think we really stressed staying together as a team, and that if we were the men that we thought we were, we could come back and we could get back in this ball game. And Gina, I was really pleased with our players. I felt like they showed a tremendous amount of heart. We couldn't have played worse the first 10 minutes of the game, and a lot of teams would fold, but I really feel like we're growing as a basketball team. We saw a great emergence from Sean Fenley and Steve Crane. They both sat out last year, so they're going to get better and better.
I think you're absolutely right. We saw a growth just from one half, and kind of talk about a little bit how you adapted to the defense. That first half defense put on by Hamline was tough to adapt to. Is that something that you stressed at halftime?
Right. They ran the amoeba zone defense, which is kind of a switching, trapping zone. Being early in the season, we haven't worked on that yet, but we were able to make some adjustments at halftime, and I think it worked well, and we were able to take them out of that then, midway through the second half. I really wish they would have stayed in it. But once again, our guys played really hard. We just got an unfortunate call at the end, and, that's going to happen. We should have been ahead by 10 if we would have played a better first 10 minutes of the game.
Can you talk a little bit more about the unfortunate significance of that offensive intentional foul call? We're under 30 seconds of the game here, and it's kind of a turn of events and an unfortunate one for that. And talk about the significance of that call.
Well, that made the whole game. That was a whole game and the official made the call that they felt what was right. But when they have to realize when they make the call, they took the game out of the hands of the players and in their own hands. So that was disappointing that they did that, but they made what they felt was the right call. I would have liked to seen a foul prior to that call. I'm not saying that they made the wrong call at the time, but I felt like there was contact. But you know, you're always going to have those second guesses. The officials do the best they can. We do the best we can, and I felt it was a great ball game. And you got to give Hamline credit. They persevered and hung in there and played really well on the road.
Well, it's early in the season, Coach, the home opener here at Elmhurst College. What do you take from a game like this?
Well, I take that we have a lot of promise. You know, once again, I saw tremendous growth from the start of the game to the end. And if we can build on this and now be the team that we were in the second half and get better from there, we've got a good future. So that'll be our big challenge.
Couldn't agree with you more, Coach. Thanks a lot for taking the time to being here with us. Good luck against St. Norbert on Tuesday. Back to you, Tim, up in the booth.
71-67 the final score. There is head coach Mark Scheer chatting with Gina Vanier, talking about a few things. Now, just to let you know, a brief clarification. The officials came over to the scorer's table, and the reason why they conferred was because apparently a rule change here for the 2010-2011 season now says that an elbow above the shoulders, regardless of intent, is automatically an intentional foul. And that is why they made the call. And Mark Scheer said it was the right call. He just didn't like necessarily the timing of the call, which, of course, unfortunately ended up costing Elmhurst the contest as they fall 71-67 tonight. We'll take a look at the final numbers in just a moment. But, Gina, to wrap things up from your conversation with Mark Scheer, he said, and I think we can both agree, that what you saw from Elmhurst in the second half was a different team. They didn't show up in the first contest at Cornell in regulation or in overtime. They certainly weren't there in the first half tonight, but what you saw was a huge step forward and a huge growth for this Elmhurst team, with Sean Fenley leading the way, among others, the newcomers to this Blue Jay squad. And that's one of the reasons why there is so much optimism around this Elmhurst team and their ability to turn around what was only a 6-win campaign last year.
Tim, it's obvious that Coach Scheer was pleased with the performance, at least the second half performance by the Blue Jays. And he's talking about guys like Steve Crane and Sean Finley, but also a guy that you definitely need to mention down the stretch in a game like this is Mike McCurdy. Comes in, starts a spark, and makes some clutch free throws, clutch shots. He's driving to the basket. Coach Scheer is absolutely pleased with the performance on the second half of things. And I think he will indeed, as he said in the interview, take something from this game. It's early on in the season, Tim. We all know that. But it's things like these. You can make these minor adjustments, fix your mistakes, and leading down the way, you know, when games really count, as we talked a little bit about in the broadcast earlier, the importance of winning the CCIW games. And taking mistakes from these games and leading to that, that's what is most important here.
A big date upcoming Tuesday on the road in Wisconsin against one of the top programs in the Midwest region. That would be St. Norbert College. It is scheduled on Tuesday night for a 7 o'clock tip-off. St. Norbert, as we speak, in the preseason D3Hoops.com top 25 poll, is sitting in 10th position after finishing ranked 20th a year ago. Some of the numbers to prove about that new Elmhurst team in the second half: they shoot 62% from the floor after just a 28% mark in the first half. Finished the game shooting 47%, 22 out of 47. Elmhurst was 6 of 16 from three-point range, 38%. They were out-rebounded by Hamline 28-26 in the contest. Hamline shot 51% from the floor, and they were 4 of 18 from three-point range in the contest. A huge advantage for the Pipers in the paint, 40-18 the points in the paint for Hamline, and that is an area that the Blue Jays would like to improve on as the season progresses with the addition of some of those inside players. Hamline with 22 points off of 21 Elmhurst turnovers, but the Blue Jays had 13 turnovers at halftime and just 8 in the second half of the matchup. Elmhurst outscoring Hamline 44-35 in the second half in a contest that featured 6 ties and 6 lead changes tonight. Individually, Carl Hipp leading the way with 15 points, along with 8 rebounds for Hamline. The only other player to reach double digits was Mike Campbell with 12. 9 for Jordan Schmidt, 8 for Christian Tabor, 6 for Tyler Pinnell and Brandon Rigg, along with Levi Weinrich. Also in the scoring column, Andy Voigt with 2. For the Blue Jays, who dropped to 0-2 on the season, 14 points from Zach Boyd, 5 of 8 from the floor. Sean Finley with 13 points, 4 of 8 shooting, 3 three-pointers for Finley, as the shooter that the CCIW grew to know with Carthage, which saw Finley earn third-team All-CCIW honors in 2008-2009. Coming out a bit tonight for the Blue Jays, Mike McCurdy with a dozen for Elmhurst to reach double digits as well. 8 points for Eric Ellingson, 7 for Raphael Oglesby, another player who had sort of a breakout game for the Blue Jays. 6 for Steve Crane, 4 for Deontay Foster, 3 for Aaron Schroeder to round out the 67 on the board for the Blue Jays tonight. A valiant effort in the second half, but it's not enough as Elmhurst falls here at home 71-67 to Hamline, who improves to 1-1 on the season. That will wrap up our coverage tonight. Big thanks to Gina Vernier, alongside, as always, for our entire Blue Jay TV crew. I'm Tim Calderwood saying thanks so much for watching.